Yo, what up? This is your boy Joe Brown.
And your boy Chad Glover.
Welcoming you to the Knowledge Discussion Podcast, aka
The Nod.
Yo, what's going on? This is another episode of The Nod. I'm here with my boy Chad Glover. What's up, Chad?
What's up, brother? How you doing today?
Great. Chad, listen, I never say this, ever. Never, man. I never say this, but I'm super excited about this episode because we are going to, and I mean, I really never say this. Like, maybe I say this every time, but we are going to be talking about AI finally.
Yeah.
Chad,
Yes.
who do we have as guests?
Today we have Malcom Coley, founder of Ready PromptOne. And we also have Christopher Whelchel, CEO of HealthTok.
What's up, Malcolm?
Yo, what's up, Eagles fan?
Yeah.
And how are you doing? What's up, Chris?
Doing great. Now, Malcolm, is that a Panthers jersey I see?
That's what I said, right?
Chad just said the same thing. So that is so funny. We might have to do something about that. But no, this is the other brand. This is Future First Gaming. So I'll put a little drop in about that later.
Actually, let's start there, Malcolm. We're talking about AI. You have something on that says Future First Gaming.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about the connection. How'd you end up in this space?
So I'm just a techie, period. Back in to give all the super context, right? My mom bought me a Nintendo when I was 8, and it just kind of went from there, right? I'm 39 now, so go figure, right? So I've been playing video games the entirety of my life. It actually helped me to graduate from college. Moving forward, 2013, I started working at Apple. I started working at Apple at Christiana Mall here in Delaware. Fun fact about that, that's actually the #1 store in the world. The #1 Apple store in the world. So I worked there for about 3 years. And then fast forward, I was always constantly playing games. However, Apple really ignited my passion for technology because I saw the effect that technology had on so many people on a daily basis. So it really ignited my fire for technology. Fast forward to 2020, I met my guy, Sai. Shout out to Leadership Delaware. Met my guy, Steven Sai. And me and KnoD, we were already kind of just moving about with our marketing company. And we all just had a conversation one day. And we were actually going to do a website for Steve's previous job. And we ended up talking about video games. Go figure, right? So he was like, yo, I like the game. And he was like, yo, I like the game. And we was like, well, let's game together. So that, turned into a business. And we started February 2020. And we all know what happened March of 2020. But gaming is a virtual thing that can be done amongst folks. So we pivoted our business, and that's something that entrepreneurs should really be doing, pivoting, right? And knowing how and when to pivot and being able to pivot quickly, right? But we pivoted to educating and playing video games online, and we did that while we were all in the house for the next 2 years. Fast forward even more, 2024, we opened up FFG Central, which is Delaware's first and only esports and technology training facility here in the state of Delaware. Oh man, Futures First Gaming is a STEM.org accredited organization, educational technology, media, and esports entertainment. And our sole goal is to bring folks into technology and entrepreneurship through gaming. So yeah, we were doing that. Now, fast forward to how that led, and that my love for technology and my love for bringing people into these spaces led to Ready PromptOne. So Ready PromptOne is an AI company focused on culture, advocacy, innovation, and education around artificial intelligence. So, it just kind of was a linear progression as I've walked through these mean streets of me being an entrepreneur, just kind of seeing the trends and being able to be on top of them at the time that people are talking about and being able to take advantage of them. So that's kind of just context as to why we got here.
Yeah, love it. So Chris, how'd you, because I know, so for those who don't know out there, his background is like mine. We are respiratory therapists. Now he owns a business called HealthTok. And then let me tell you something. He's also an excellent speaker on AI because I got to watch him multiple times. In fact, made sure from a conversation we had in a committee meeting, made sure that he's been speaking on us every time we can. So how'd you go there? How'd you end up there, Chris?
Oh, gosh, Malcolm, that was first off, Malcolm's story about getting a Nintendo. I think I remember too, as a young kid, getting my first Nintendo, the original one, and all the kids would come over to our house and play the games.
Same.
So
I mean,
you guys are young bucks. My first one was an Atari. But go ahead, Chris.
oh, we had Atari, we had Intellivision, we had all that stuff too, you know. But no, it's good story and background because I think I've always loved technology. It wasn't something that I guess I dove into fully. I dabbled a little bit with Unix programming and things like that in the I guess mid to late '90s. And I remember building my own computer and all that. But at that time, it was really interesting. Is the market for technology, they wanted people with 20, 30, 40 years background in technology to be able to work in that field. And here I was, in my early 20s or so, trying to break into that. And I said, gosh, I tried to get all these certificates and whatnot, and I just couldn't get in. So then I started thinking about other things. And I actually got into hydraulics and pneumatics, which is a lead way into respiratory, and worked in manufacturing for a little bit. And I loved that work. It really gave me a background, a little bit of tech involved in that, but more of the physics and so forth behind pneumatics and hydraulics. So jumping ahead, I lost my dad. A lot of people know that story very young. It made me rethink where I was heading in my career. I had so many healthcare professionals in my family. I was surrounded by them, just friends and whatnot. And it took a visit actually to a children's hospital. And a nurse friend of mine was there. I went to have lunch and I saw the impact that she had with her patients. And I immediately said, that's what I want to do the rest of my life in some way, shape, or form. Well, after I got into school, went and got a degree in respiratory and so forth, I jumped into healthcare and I thought, gosh, my background in business kind of gave me a perspective of healthcare, which is the inefficiencies, right? We all know that. We all see it. We all hear it. I mean, you don't even have to be in the field to realize the inefficiencies in healthcare. I mean, it's all over the news and we personally experience it. And so over the years in practice, I always thought there's got to be better ways to do things. Just like Malcolm, my entrepreneurial spirit was always looking for ways to make things better. And when jumping ahead 20 or so years, artificial intelligence hit the market, launching ChatGPT, I think really set the fire for a lot of folks, because it was mainstream. And when I saw the capabilities of these language models in the healthcare environment, or at least understanding what could happen, I thought, I got to jump into this. I said, this is just too incredible. This can really make the difference that I've wanted to make in the healthcare setting. And so I went full steam in. I know what can happen in the healthcare environment. I know what artificial intelligence can do and technology. So I said, I'm going to do it on my own. I'm going to start a company, and that's what we're going to focus on. Because working for hospitals and healthcare organizations, trying to do these large-scale projects was just impossible. There's only so much time you have, and working every single day, in the healthcare role, I just couldn't do it. And so I said, I need to focus on these projects. I need to break out and talk to a lot of folks, talk to a lot of mentors, and just said, what do I do? And they said, Chris, get out on your own. Start your own company, focus on this specific aspect, bring in technology to healthcare environments. And that's what I did. And here I am, talking and speaking at conferences and working with different organizations and hopefully making a big difference, before my years are up.
And now you're on a podcast with Eagles fans, man.
Yeah, that's right. Go Birds.
Yep.
Chad. Now, I don't know. Actually, I don't even know in your role if you work with AI. Like, what's your connection with this?
Yeah, so first of all, I want to give my origin IT story and then kind of connect it to where AI is now, right? So my origin IT story is I got my first, I won my first programming contest at 6. I've been in IT basically all my life. Starting with a TRS-80, so I'm gonna date myself. So it was before your guys' stuff. And I just love technology, and I initially went to school for engineering, but I was like, why am I doing this? So I switched up and left Drexel University. We have to go in there 3 years and basically finished on my degree to get a computer science degree. I have an MBA and MIS degree, and I've been in IT basically my entire life. And I've been a programmer. I've been leading large organizations as directors and VPs and things like that. So I've always basically been in the weeds, right? Building technology from the ground up with programmers and developers and all sorts of stuff. And then ChatGPT came out, right? And so me and my peers were like, maybe this will be a fad. Programmers won't write themselves out of work. And so the first iteration of ChatGPT came out. And we said, hey, let's have it write some code. And it wrote horrible code. It was really bad, non-functional code. The next version came out. It was better than my best programmer ever wrote. And I was like, uh-oh. this thing is a game changer. And, so, part of my business, Glover Technology, is we basically do RFP work. So we, go to big customers and create software and do things for them. And part of the process is responding to RFPs. So in the past, I would basically get an RFP, get all the details of the RFP, and have to spend a week, a month, or 2 weeks writing out the response to the RFP. Dropped it in the ChatGPT. I get the response in 5 minutes tops, and it writes better RFP responses than I do. I am a believer of AI and what it will do and what it can do, both positively and negatively. And that's why I'm in the space as much as I can be now.
Yeah. My story is way shorter because I have no IT background at all. So I will tell you this though. Have you guys, I'm gonna ask y'all a question real quick, just a quick yes or no. Have you ever like took a tool bag and pulled out a hammer or a screwdriver and then sat in a corner and played with it like it was a toy?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
See, no, I didn't. I look at the computer as an absolute, like it's like a hammer to me. It's like a screwdriver. Like I use it when I need it, and after that, I put it down and I walk away. Right. So, and I think that's like the perspective of the end user is we just want things to be faster, quicker. I don't want to play with it. I don't want to learn the toys on it. I want whatever makes life easier for me. So I guess that's a good first question. And we're gonna go all predictor now. So you guys are like going to be predicting the future. How for me as the end user, speaking to end users, how is this going to make life easier for me? Anybody jump in?
The founder of NVIDIA, I'm drawing a blank on his name right now.
Jensen.
Yeah, Jensen. He said it. I think he said it the best probably a couple months ago, and it really summed up the direction I think that everybody's trying to head. Is that it's seamless. It's seamless in your work. It's seamless in your day, and you shouldn't have to actually really think about artificial intelligence in the manner that you're talking to. Is that we don't need to dive into it. We don't need to. It just needs to flow. It just needs to be part. It needs to work with you. And I just remember how he described it was like, don't think about like what you have to do to make AI work. AI needs to work for you.
Yes.
And what that vision looks like, I don't know from the heads that be across the world, but I think that's a really good vision to have is that you go and you do your day. You do just like you would every single day, whether it's work environment, personal environment, and then artificial intelligence is augmenting your abilities. I think that's a great vision to have for all industries and all fields and around AI. And that's my prediction for the future is that you won't have to think about it.
Good. Chad, you got it. Go ahead.
Yeah. I agree with you, Chris. My only fear is AI can
We're
be.
gonna talk about fears too. We gonna believe me. We're gonna hit fears hard. So
Right.
this is a projection.
So my projection is, as Chris said, I think it'll be part of everyday life. My fear is that because it's unregulated, there could be some dire consequences around that. And we're already seeing that in employment losses. Microsoft, Google, a bunch of companies are laying people off left and right. So there's a transformation that will happen in society, and I don't know what that transformation looks like for people who aren't comfortable with technology and what that looks like going forward. So that's like my biggest fear about where, on the good side, it's great because you can make people more productive. On the bad side, it's the humanity part that may be lost.
Yeah.
Hold on to fear, Malcolm, because I think we're gonna make that a whole section. So give me
Okay.
your good projection.
So to Chad and Chris's points, talking about being an augmentation to our everyday life, I just 100% feel that it's going to be that. And not just from a productivity perspective, but also from like a mental health perspective, from a just being able to develop soft skills. It's a lot of intangible things that I don't think that we're actually looking at that these models can help us with and help us to develop people who have all types of issues all across the board. And I know we're going to talk about healthcare. However, I just think that there are still intangible things that this technology is going to help us with that we're not even thinking about yet. And I want to talk, later on about those white spaces and those gaps. However, I just think that we haven't even really scratched the surface of how this is really going to help us in the future. And we'll talk about fears later, but from mental health perspective, from a soft skills perspective, from just a personal human developmental perspective, I think this is one of the greatest things that has ever happened to man ever since the development of the internet, right? Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it at the moment.
I mean, one of the interesting stories is I was at a conference and we had a pre-conference that was on AI that Chris was leading. I had a meeting, and I'm not saying the names of the brands because they don't pay me at least yet. But I used one AI model to take notes from the meeting that I had with a potential client. I took that, I ran to the meeting that started at the conference that started at 2. I had it upload all the notes from that, put it into another model that knows my hourly rate, did a prediction of how long it was going to take, and sent the full contract. And I was done in 5 minutes. And I did it while I was sitting at an AI conference.
That's impact right there.
That's a
That
lot of
impact.
impact.
It would
That
have
is a
taken me
ton.
2 days to do that. So
those are the intangible. Well, there's a tangible aspect to that, very, very. But there's also, like Malcolm said, there's the things that we're looking at, I think, and talking about as benefits, right? You were able to turn that around. That was efficient. That's profitability. I mean, there's so many things there. But what did it do to you from a mental aspect? Did it make you happier, right? Like those things, those are the immeasurables.
Right.
I mean, we at some point we're going to start looking at like the emotional impacts and the psychological impacts. I think that's what's going to be really neat as we transition away from task and efficiency to overall well-being. It's going to be really fascinating to see when the market kind of shifts to a little bit of that focus, or at least some companies do.
Yeah, I'm already starting to see companies really start to double down and focus on. For instance, I don't know if you guys seen it, but I follow Mark Zuckerberg feverishly on social media, and he's working on a collection of advanced AI models to create some super intelligence for the overall well-being of people, which I think is great, and it's something that's needed. It's going to come anyway. So I think to your point, Chris, like being able to measure someone's overall happiness from being able to implement technology, yes, there's cons. However, if we can have an overall, uptick in personal wellness and self-esteem and mental health, I mean, I call that a win,
that was a benefit I didn't even really think about, because that would have been on my mind. Number one, I would have missed your talk because I would have finished it, because it would have been on my mind that whole week, and I had to speak twice or 3 times, I can't remember, and I had a board meeting, so I would have probably just missed it. So, but now we did the happy. All right, chat. Tell us your fears, chat. Let's get there.
I mean, you've seen the movies, right? You've seen Terminator and all the other movies, right? Like, it's real, man. I mean, restraints could potentially be dangerous. It's like a car that has no brakes, right? It'd be nice because you want to go fast, but sometimes you need to stop. And right now, countries and governments don't really have limits on this technology, right? So because there are no limits, it's limitless, right? And the possibilities of that. I mean, I saw videos out of China where they have drones armed with, shooting people, like, and things like that. Like, literally, AI is making decisions to kill people, like, literally. So when you have that extreme end of it, that's the part that worries me. It worries me from just humanity as a whole, and the limits that we don't have on the technology and what it may end up doing to society as a whole. So that's my biggest fear around, really. Right.
You guys jump in.
I think there's a lot of worries out there. There really is. And, some of my work from my research is diving into the ethics behind it. And what I found is digging into ethics is so the technology has an intent, right? We always intend for technologies to reach a certain goal. And where I think is important for people to be part of is in that development of the technology. Because if you have the right people at the right table to develop it, you can ask those questions of what are the unintended consequences, right? Facebook and so forth, and a lot of the socials. The intent was to connect people. That was always the intent, right? Mark Zuckerberg talked about that, Malcolm. And all these guys, they sit down, they say, gosh, this is going to be amazing. Facebook's going to connect people. But the unintended consequences was that people are more separate,
Yes.
right? And so, but if you have the right people at the table from the beginning, from the build, from the very started, when the idea comes to fruition, then you can start asking those questions: is what happens if this technology does not have the consequences? What do we do at that point? Are the intended consequences? And so those are the fears can be negated a lot of times by the initial design and by having a very diverse, and that's really, really important in artificial intelligence, is a very diverse population working on technologies. We don't just want engineers. We don't just want tech folks. We want people from all walks of life with all different perspectives, especially if that technology is going to impact them. Right? If we don't have those other perspectives, we won't ever see it. So that's what I found, like I said, in working in understanding ethics a little bit better, it was always having diversity in the build, not along the way, but from the get-go. I think that's an important part for everybody. I think I spoke about a little bit of that at the conference, Joel, as I really tried to emphasize that is get ahead, jump in, be part of it. If you hear about your team or your company or anybody else developing a technology such as artificial intelligence and building models, ask if you can be part of it because you may have a perspective that nobody else sees.
Indeed.
And so I think that's really, really important to negate some of the fears, at least.
Yeah.
And that also helps with reducing biases in the technology. What happens is, a lot of these models, and I try not to be on the side of fear mongering. Not that's not what we're doing. We're educating, right? And I think that's what pushes back on the fear mongering, right? I think that, to your point, Chris, we everybody needs to be a part of building the models, because that helps to mitigate the biases that are built in from these models, because a lot of these models that are being built are super biased, right? A lot of the data that was initially put into your chat GPTs and your Geminis and your Claudes, right, are super, super duper biased. So, this being open source and readily available for everybody really helps to mitigate a lot of those biases. So I like that direction.
Yeah, and it's another thing that makes.
Oh, go ahead, Chad. Go.
Yeah, it's another thing that I kind of think of. So I think about technology. So the old school way was building technology. We would build technology, and then we didn't know a lot about security in the beginning. So we just build all this technology and then add security later on. And then over time in the industry, you started thinking differently about building security again from the very beginning, right? So to your point, Chris, about building that ethical model essentially around that model is critically important. And I hope the industry starts to shift to that, start just thinking about that. I don't think we have done a really good job so far with that, but I hope that as things evolve, that happens, like the next iteration of the AI models.
Yeah, you guys all went above board. Let me go. I'll go back to I think we're all gonna end up in the Matrix. Like we're gonna be batteries. We're gonna be batteries, and AI gonna have no use for us other than to keep a charge, because we can generate BTUs, and so how do we make that we don't end up batteries, right? Because I've actually heard speakers go, yeah, there's a 30% chance of AI just taking over the world. That is. If somebody told me I had a 30% chance of dropping out of the sky when I'm flying in a plane, I'm never getting on a plane. So how do we convince people to still do this when there's such a high percentage chance of this thing going awry?
I actually want to do the research, right? I saw the video on Instagram, and it actually really opened up my eyes to the perceptions of people. So back in like the early 1900s, 1910s, when the typewriter was actually invented, people thought that they were going to lose their ability to know how to write. So obviously that didn't happen. The same thing with the invention of a car, right? There were so many cons around this combustible engine on four wheels, right? So I just think as we have conversations around technology and as technology advances, I think because it's so brand new and there was so much foreshadowing for this technology to come apart, where like everybody always talks about Terminator, right? I'm like, we probably won't see that in our lifetime. Like if that was to actually happen, we won't see that in our lifetime. And I doubt that would happen, and if it does happen, I'm John Connor.
The young one or old one?
Look, let's just have a mixture of both.
Yeah, but the reality is you're actually already starting to see some of that stuff. I mean, just look at the videos out of Ukraine. It's a different transformation of using technology in a different way to be successful. So I think the problem is it's already here and it's just coming faster and faster. And I think the thing that's scariest for me is, as an IT guy, there's you know you can always crack open the code and understand it, right? You look at it, I see A plus B in the code, and I can fix it. I can figure it out. There's a point in which the models are getting so sophisticated we don't even understand it anymore. That level of super intelligence, right? And when the computers are smarter than us, what does that mean for its thought processes, its conclusions that it comes to, and even the ethics to reach the outcomes that it wants to reach? So I think that's the part that's like the scariest and the most complicated part about the whole equation.
Easy answer. You become a battery. Go ahead, Chris.
So I, to jump back to your question, it's like, how do we negate this, or how do we prevent it, or how do we alter it? And I guess there's a little bit of faith that I have in humanity, and that we will maintain our human characteristics, and that artificial intelligence will replace the things that don't make us human. Artificial intelligence won't be compassionate. It actually isn't smart, if you want to think about it that way. It's a computational program that predicts the next letter in a sequence, in simplicity, or tokens, if you're talking about language models. So it is strange to call it artificial intelligence, because I don't know how much actually intelligence is really there. It's programming. But if we think about the raw nature of a lot of these, is that it's really human capability, because we're building all of this. So it's our ideas, and it's our data, it's our knowledge that actually a program is using, our intelligence is using. But so as far as negation goes, or curbing the effects, I just want to bring up something that's relevant to this, in that there's two things that have stuck out to me recently. One is Elon's model Grok. I think one of his engineers came out, or at least himself might have said it, is that some of these models have all of human knowledge already programmed. So all of human knowledge and all of human history already built into the models. So everything we could know is built in and trained. Now some of these models are looking at synthetic data, because we're running out of data from humanity and our knowledge. And so I don't even know what synthetic data looks like.
Me either.
But it's even wild to start thinking about. So, well, okay, my brain doesn't do that yet. So if that knowledge is there, there's another discussion currently happening in this space, which is that the age of intelligence is kind of fading. And what I mean by that is reflective in the college enrollments. Unfortunately, college enrollments are down. Master's programs are down. PhD programs are down, because who do we normally think in our lifetimes? I'm 50 years old. In our lifetimes, we always sought an expert. So, we need to reach out to that professor, that doctor, whoever it may be, because they were the source of knowledge. But now we have knowledge at our fingertips. We have information so fast now that we're going to infrequently ask for those professional, those experts in the field to help us, obtain answers. So there's a dynamic shift going on, where it's not necessarily those people we're going to seek anymore. But I guess I haven't fully thought about the whole process, which is what happens then if we're not seeking those experts and we have it right at our fingertips. What do we do with ourselves every day? And I think that's where trade is going to be big, like getting into trades and so forth. Trade schools are skyrocketing. The things that humans do well, that artificial intelligence cannot replace, is going to grow, it's going to boom. And we're going to see dynamic shifts in markets everywhere. We're already seeing it. So as far as preventing it goes, and saying, how do we deal with this big influx? It's focusing again on the things that we do well. And I think we have to retrospectively think of, okay, what do humans do well? And that's something that we're going to learn over the next several years, is where do we excel and where does technology excel? And I think that's the whole world is learning that right now. Honestly, the whole world is.
So interesting enough, the conversation around trades is a very interesting one right now, especially with the use of artificial intelligence. I'm on Instagram a lot, y'all. So I saw I saw a video of the gentleman, I believe his name is Mike Rowe.
Yes.
And he talked about how the government needs folks to build submarines, and those particular trade jobs like you were talking about, Chris, it's actually the opposite. They're like down. extremely because technology is so prevalent in our society these days. So he's like, obviously you talk about your general like contracting stuff like welders and electricians and plumbers and things of that nature. Obviously, the artificial intelligence cannot replace any of that. However, on a larger scale, when you're talking about more specialized trades, like I think he talked about a elevator technician specifically. That's like a very specialized trade, right? And he said the number of folks like that in specialized trades to the same point as like specialized knowledge around PhDs and masters and stuff, all of that is dwindling down. So it's not even just like your PhDs and your masters. Those trades are starting to dwindle down because a lot of the folks are getting more of the awareness around the technology. So which makes them not to want to be a skilled skilled laborer, a skilled laborer anymore. So I think it's a very interesting dynamic that we're about to really start approaching because the technology is really having a greater effect on the job market more than what we actually see with our own eyes right now. So I just think that a lot of the conversations that we're having right now are really interesting. And I really want to find the gaps in these spaces and create some things where we can like kind of balance these things out. So
Yeah.
Those elevator jobs, 6-figure jobs,
yes, they are.
right out of school, and actually they'll train you.
Yep.
We have
My neighbor's one.
Yeah, 6-figure job, right? Like meaning you start at that. So I guess we talked about the good, the bad. Let's talk about business. Let's talk about money. So how do I as or you like what's the ways you guys are thinking of turning AI into dollars? Meaning like what's the business case around using AI?
I mean, I think Chris got the best business case ever, right? Healthcare is probably the only sector that's actually growing. The latest stats from the Bureau of Labor and Statistics came out, and the only sector that was growing is healthcare. And so healthcare is the only sector growing, and Chris is applying AI to that. I can't think of a better example than that.
And you want to know what's interesting? So yesterday I did a panel at the Millennial Summit, and we had his name was Dr. Albert Mills, and he's a cardiologist, and he talked about, and I don't know if you're doing this, Chris, with your technology, but he talked about using AI in healthcare. However, because of the data models, there's still a lot of intricate biases within a lot of the data models that are being used for the doctors to help them be more productive during the day. I don't know if you're doing this, Chris, but if you can find ways where those models inside of healthcare is less biased, because he said he's starting to see biases with heart patients, but not just with heart patients, with kidney patients and folks who specifically need like transplants. He spoke about that at lengths. And I don't know if you're doing that on your side. And I would love to hear more about, some of the things that you're doing on your side to kind of like find these white spaces and, have a solution for them.
Yeah, so healthcare definitely, obviously, is adopting AI daily. I follow so many companies that are in the space, and I'm just amazed at it's almost like a free for all. It's like, I'll just take it. Whatever you got, I'll just take it. Like, sign me up. And Mayo Clinic, Harvard, it just goes on and on and on. They're just like signing contracts daily. And there's an organization now, I butchered off the top of my head, but I think it's called CHIA or something along those lines. And they're trying to regulate, and they're trying to say, this is how you evaluate models. And then we're going to get back to your question, Joel, about business and money. But evaluating models in healthcare is probably one of the most important things, because if you're in a hospital setting and you're on a small team, you say, hey, I got 10 different models that want to come in here, and they're all promising me the world. I mean, the one guy's going to save me $1 billion. The other guy's going to save me $1 million. It's like they all have these promises, and they all publish white papers to show this. But what they don't have is a lot of peer reviewed academic backing behind their outcomes. So that's a gray area right now in healthcare too, is their money actually being made? Or, you can look at it from a savings perspective, or you can say a profitability perspective.
Is it too early to even really have that data yet?
Well, I would say so. I think that within the next year, we're going to start seeing a lot more reports of actual fiscal ROI and so forth, because that's important. I'm being asked that a lot. What's the actual money? I hear the soft ROI. I hear physicians and practitioners saying it makes my day so much better. I feel, gosh, I got so much more time after work. Those are great. but let's put some dollars to it, right? Because to Joel's point, where's the money? Are we seeing the money from it?
Yeah.
And saving money is, saving time and is money. So that you can reflect it, but are we getting ahead, versus just saving? And I think that there's a lot to be told in that. There's preliminary reports outside of healthcare too that I see that it's like, okay, hey, these guys made X, Y, Z in quarter 1 more than they did before, and they attributed it to artificial intelligence. And so that's hard because I dabble outside in other businesses as well. But in the healthcare model, it's still really, really tough. But going back to evaluating models, there needs to be a standard in healthcare specifically. Like, this is how we evaluate a model, right? And that could be shared. That could be given inside of healthcare, outside of healthcare. But there should be a way to evaluate the impacts of artificial intelligence on your own organization effectively. You can repeat it. Because right now it's everybody's saying, well, that sounds good, that looks good, let's just do it. Or I don't like that, let's not do it. And that's tough on businesses to not have any consistency on how you evaluate a potential model on your organization. So that's kind of a superficial answer, Joel, to your question a little bit, but
Yeah.
No, so here's a question. Guess this, you guys. Guess how long it takes for a study to go from peer review to actual practice in a hospital?
5 years.
Malcolm, what do you think?
12.
Chris probably knows this. 17 years.
I was close.
So from the time that we decide, like, hey, using this particular piece of equipment saves 10% on decreasing mortality by 10%, it may take, on average, it takes 17 years. So again, if I like to make some
17
money,
years to decrease mortality by 10%. God
yes,
darn.
sir. Yes. So again, if I want to
crazy.
make money today, well, no, Chad, I'm gonna start with you. How do we use AI to make some money?
Well, for me, again, it's about optimizing my time and getting outputs, right? So there are things that I can do. As I said, I think I said at the beginning of the podcast, basically the proposals that I used to respond to, use AI to create those responses for me. I have a template that I say, hey, AI, use this template. My business model, as you said, Joel, here's my pricing structure for what I do for software delivery. Build this response for this government agency. And I do that now with every proposal that I get, right? So now before I used to be able to do 1 or 2 proposals at a time, I can do 30 at a time. So ultimately, it makes me more productive as an organization because I can get that result and get profitability as I win those contracts. Again, even in building those contracts, so things that I build in, now I can think differently too. So I would hire developers. Well, now I don't necessarily even have to hire a developer. I can basically use AI to build everything I need to as well, right? So there also creates lower costs for me and ultimately generate more profitability for me as a whole.
So I'm going to answer this question a little differently. So
Okay, let's go.
So I'm going to go back to what Chris said, and I actually kind of feel like this is an opportunity. I'm going to give you 3 things real quick. So first, to frame all of what I'm about to say, right? As I spoke at the Mill Summit yesterday, I really was intentional about finding gaps in industries, right? So people are always talking about, oh, how do I use ChatGPT? How do I prompt it? How do I prompt Gemini? Or all of that, which is 100% fine. Let's do that. However, how do we utilize these technologies to find gaps in those spaces and work together collaboratively to find those gaps in those spaces? So for instance, Chris, you just mentioned that there's no thing that can process peer reviews or that however it is that you had talked about it, right? How do we create that? That in and of itself, that's a gajillion-dollar business.
Mm-hmm.
How do we create that? That's how my mind is looking at, and that's how my mind has shifted, right? Like I said, where everybody's talking about how do we prompt? How do we do this? However, how do we take what Chris said, create this digital product, which you can actually have IP around a digital product and license it, right? How do we create that? That's where my mind is at. So that is let's go ahead and write that one down because we need to think about that.
I wrote down.
So yeah, we need to figure that out. So we need to put our minds together and figure that out, and that just give us a little piece of health talk. So we need that, right?
Yeah,
so on the other side, like I said, I'm just thinking about gaps in the spaces, right? So Jennifer Cohen came and did a fireside chat at Ready PromptOne at the Ready PromptOne Summit, and she spoke about gaps in safety from a construction perspective, right? So she was talking about actually using artificial intelligence to make her construction workers more safe. And that's a wide open field, right? How do we utilize the technology to create safety things utilizing the technology, right? I don't even know what that looks like. However, that is a huge opportunity to make some money. Well, I'm actually creating something right now in the education space, a tutor of some sort where it can detect what a child is missing in order to create a individualized education plan. So, when we talk about IEPs and education and just education as a whole, that's just a huge conversation. So how can we develop the products, license the products, have the IP to the products, license the products, and then have these products make that type of an impact on a grandiose level? So I'll give that to you guys, right? In shifting perspective, how do we use all of the technology or whatever technologies to find, and even with, Chris and Joel, you guys being in the healthcare space, specifically upper respiratory, right? I'm 100% sure you guys know gaps. 1,000% sure. What are the gaps? How can we put the people in position to fill the gaps with the technology, but we actually own the technology and we're licensing it out? That's kind of where my mind is at. And that's really where I feel like the money can be made, is just really, but honestly, that's what people do, period, with businesses, right? We find gaps. Uber doesn't own any car, but they're transporting everybody. Airbnb, they don't own any property, but you're staying at all of their properties, right? Same thing with eBay. eBay doesn't have any inventory, but you're buying and purchasing from them every single day, right? So how do we take that conceptually and apply it over here? And then poof, that's where the money.
Love it. And now with Malcolm's part, we got it down to 12 years. Chris, you're on.
We gotta get that down a couple some months.
Down to 5, but more importantly, how do we make because there's anytime there's new technology, there's business behind it. Somebody's making money off of it.
Oh, yeah.
How do we make sure our audience are the people who are?
There's massive amounts of money currently being made. It's unequivocal. And the amount of seed funding that these companies are getting every day, I think, gosh, you just got 10 million, you just got 50 million, you just got 100 million. Like, it's just everybody.
Valuations are crazy.
Yeah, it's just wild. I mean, I think that I was just talking about Apple and Zuckerberg and all these guys, Tim Cook and Zuckerberg. I think that Zuckerberg's newest hire was one of the highest paid of
$250 million.
Something, how much? It was like
$250 million over 4 years.
Yeah,
with 100 million up front.
And he does not play football. Definitely don't play for the Cowboys. Go ahead, Chris.
It's just unbelievable. So the money's there, and everybody wants a little piece of it. So I think recently I heard the shift is going to be we hear about the AI race, and we hear about everybody racing to be number one, and I thought, there's not going to be a winner in this at all. There's not going to be one company that's like, we are AI or something magical like that. What it's going to be is a million people developing a million different applications for specific purposes. Mm-hmm. To your point, Malcolm, fill in the gaps. Mm-hmm. And building applications it used to take programming. Now it doesn't. You can build applications. And that's what's fantastic about these open source programs. Mm-hmm. They're encouraging people. Mm-hmm. Please use our platform. Develop your own model. Develop your own thing, your own widget, whatever it may be. And so, you find those use cases, you find the areas to fill a gap, and you say, I'm going to help fix that. And then how does technology help me do that? What programs are available to help me get there? And then you offer that to the company, and then they say, that's great, that will close the gap, and we're going to use your product. We're going to use your company to fill that gap. So that's a big moneymaker right there. And again, then you got to get into measuring ROI, and I think that's a whole another thing in itself. But you can be, I'm a consultant, so you can be a consultant. You can go into organizations and just be that voice, be that connector. Some companies have me speak from the medical device side of things because they're trying to connect sales to medicine. And they're like, we have salespeople, we don't have medical people. How do we bridge that gap? So if you're familiar with artificial intelligence and the capabilities, you can come into a company and start to connect to what their product is, their company is. What do they do as their foundation of their company? And how can I connect them to technology? Right? You don't have to offer that technology or sell it to them. You can just say, this will work. You have to listen to their processes. You have to run through it all and say, is technology number one the right aspect for you? Or is it more people? Or is it the specialized people? And that's where consulting comes in. And that's kind of what I do in a nutshell. But I think there's a lot of things. Malcolm, you mentioned safety. So when you talk about vision models and multimodal, so you're talking about audio and visual, like cameras and so forth. There's a lot of artificial intelligence right now catered to, and I was just reading an article on it, and I thought it was fascinating. I sent it to my friend. It's about monitoring, and this is the simplistic aspect of it. So monitoring elderly folks at home, or monitoring folks that are subject to falls using various artificial intelligence programs. Right? They use radar technologies and whatnot, see where people are. And, I don't know enough about it to talk about it in extreme detail, but I know that what I read was fascinating. It said, gosh, it can monitor somebody, their safety at home, call an ambulance for them, whatever it may be. If they see a fall, if they see the motion go in a direction that it is, it's got all these sensors in it. So smart homes that monitor folks that are either disabled or whatnot. Big aspect there, right? Like, please dive into that and help save people and help them in their day-to-day lives. Those are just another business ideas. I mean, they just keep going and keep going if you start thinking about it deep enough. But I sent that article to my friend about that, a company that's diving full into that too. Monitoring folks at home that are elderly, that want to live independently, but maybe need extra oversight. Artificial intelligence is great for that, predicting their patterns, recognizing when they're out of patterns, right? Reminding them for medication, things like that all can be done in smart homes. There's so many actual use cases there.
I think that's where the money is too, right? I think that so many people, when they approach this conversation around, and artificial intelligence is such a broad term, like we throw so much underneath the artificial intelligence umbrella where sometimes certain things get lost. But I was reading a book by Tim Ferriss yesterday called Tools of Titans, and one particular entrepreneur in the book was talking about asking the dumb question, right? And I think if we put ourselves in the positions to ask the dumb question that solves a problem, that's where money is too, right? So to your point, Chris, like just monitoring the elderly folk from falling, and somebody probably asked a question, right? And it probably wasn't even high level, and what made somebody say, right? So that's kind of also where I'm always trying to pay attention to. And that's why I'm on social media, Twitter and TikTok so much, where like, are people asking dumb questions about simple processes that could be solved by a tool that hasn't been created yet? That's where I really, really try to pay attention to, because it's a ton of tools that haven't been created yet that could really, really, really help a very small process, but helping that small process has huge returns. So that's where I also think that the money is, but we have to pay attention in order to really see, those opportunities. So that's also kind of where I sit at as well. So
Chad, I'm going to let you go ahead and close this part about money out, and then we will need to swing over to this or that.
So fundamentally, I think we are saying the same thing. It's just identifying a gap and using the tool, right? So whatever business you're in, right? So I'm in the business, part of the business that I do is banking stuff, solving banking needs through AI. If you're in the business of making shoes or in the healthcare or whatever, there are always things in your specialty that you can use and apply technology to, and AI is another technology tool that you can use to extend and create productivity in your life, right? So I encourage people to just try to do something with it.
I think my favorite AI quote is, AI will not take your job, but people who know how to use AI will. Get on board or you're going to be ran over. So,
And
John Connor.
Right, exactly.
Or you'll be a battery. You'll be a battery.
That's my favorite movie, by the way.
It's a great movie.
Wow, look at that.
It's number one favorite movie.
I love it. I love it.
classic.
It's surreal. Gosh, I probably could quote every word from it. I said, I don't care how many times, I'll keep watching it. It's fine with me.
Yes.
Cool. All right, so that takes us to the part of our show, the little fun portion we call this or that. So this or that, the way it works is I'll give you two choices. You can only give me one answer out of those two choices. Not both is not an answer. Neither is not an answer. And if you and again, if we'll all go around and give our answer, don't explain why. But if any of us disagree and we have disunity in terms of what we pick, then we'll discuss it and talk about why we differ. Okay?
Let's go. This or that.
All right. So the first one is my favorite. iPhone or Android?
iPhone.
Android.
Playing yourself, Chad. Look at that. I'm so happy, y'all, because let me tell you, every time he says the reason why I have an iPhone is because I'm not an IT guy. I got two. Explain yourself, Chad.
I am an IT guy, and there's something about the prison of Apple that I'm just not a fan of, right? So fundamentally, yeah, it gives you technology, at an ease of use and bubbled up in a nice, pretty package. But there are things from an IT guy that I want to do at a lower level that Apple just doesn't allow, right? Even from a development standpoint, you have to be in their wall in order to do testing, right? So it kind of limits my ability to do things, and I don't like to be constricted. So that's why I choose Android.
By the way, Chad used to work for a company that provided software for cell phones, correct?
Yeah, we at one point managed the entire global trade-in for Apple across the country. And I
I don't even
remember
know how people can
a
purchase
funny
an
story real quick,
Android.
and I'll let you guys answer.
I'm with you, Malcolm.
I went into an Apple store, and we basically were managing the trade-ins, and you can trade in an iPhone or you can trade in an Android. And I asked the guy, I said, hey, so what do you got? And I was with like senior leadership, but I was like, what, I'm just going to do this just to see what happens. I said, what do you do with these Androids that you get for trading? He said, we just throw them out in the trash and out back.
Where they belong.
Burn them.
Burn them. Where they belong.
Ready belong.
All right, so now that Chad's talked about his BlackBerry, guys, why do you have iPhones?
Continuity. Like there's no devices in the world that has the continuity of Apple. Like I can have a conversation on my iPhone, my iPad, or my Mac. And that's just a very small piece, right? I could actually, the way how Apple's continuity is set up, that I can have an iPad and a Mac, and my iPad can be a second screen. Like you can't do that with Samsung.
Yeah.
No.
It's
not as free flowing. Like, it's not as you're talking about the ease of use. It's not as easy as it is with it's literally like screen mirroring with a Mac and a iPad is.
Yeah.
It's just so many. And then like this is another one. So I've been talking to my mom. I could go on and on about this.
We got to do at least 3. So
Yeah, I go on and on about this. But one thing is communication. So I've had people in my life where their phone, whatever happens to their phone service, right? We ain't going. That's another conversation. Whatever happens to their phone service. However, with an iPhone, I could still FaceTime you, FaceTime audio you. Like that is for me. And I can still send you a text message. For me, that is like top tier. Like my mom, I had to talk her into getting an iPad. She finally got one. She said, I should have been got one of these, son. I know you should have been got one.
Chris, what are your thoughts?
I think
Prove that Chad's wrong again. Go ahead.
The streamline. I think the connections, like you said, between all the different devices and everything. There seems to be a easy transition when you're flexing and flowing between platforms and whatnot. It's I can use any device. I think it's just streamlined, but I am torn a little bit. I will say, I'm gonna Chad, I understand you a little bit because I'm a longtime Google user and whatnot, and they've got their own platform, and so I'm always torn. Like, do I switch? But then I remember how difficult it was back in the day. So I say, no, I'm sticking with it. I know it well. And learning a new platform sometimes can be tough.
It is.
It can be. So I think that the integration aspects and whatnot, and that's what.
So basically, you're saying Chad's using Google and we're using AI.
Sorry, Chad.
All right, we're gonna lean on this one. We're gonna lean on this one more again. Apple Maps or Google Maps?
Apple Maps, hands down. Apple Maps is just top tier.
Joel?
I gotta say Google Maps. I don't use Apple Maps at all.
Apple Maps is top tier.
I had just going through this yesterday because my new truck has TomTom, and I'm like, what is this stuff?
TomTom.
I tried it, and I'm like, what is going on with this? And it's just the familiarity of using Google. I can look at the reviews of a place, and I can say, yeah, I want to go there. Google Maps is just easy, and I don't know. It's what I know.
Yeah,
right.
Chris, you're not a part of the gang no more, man.
Google Maps for me too. It's superior to Apple Maps. Apple is.
We broke the thing we're supposed to go through before we explain too. But that means we could do another one.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Let's see. AI will take over or AI will fall off.
Take over.
Take over.
Take over for certain. And then let's see. A tablet or pen and paper.
Man. Because I use a tablet with a pen. I'm old school, new school.
No, both, Joel. Pick one or the other.
I know. So I would have to say a tablet then.
Dang, I use a tablet with a pen too. Oh man, I'll be taking notes galore with on my tab with the pen.
I'll pick one.
I think when I dive down in, I'm not, pen and paper.
Yeah, I think I will go pen and paper.
See, I actually put a filter on my iPad so it feels like paper.
Just got my
I
daughter
use
one of those.
Apple Pen.
That's so funny.
But then I like that it transitions it to regular script and write, and pretty much I can save it. So I figure I can, even if I don't have I can use my finger on the pad if I don't get the pen. So that's why I went with pad. But yeah, I need to actually write. I can't, and my typing's horrible.
Yeah, there's just something more natural for me to actually use a pen, even though I'm an IT guy. I've been using computers and keywords probably, like I said, as long as most people have been alive. But it's just something about the feel of actually a writing instrument that for me to get stuff out of my head, it sometimes works.
I also feel like when I write, I feel like I process the information better too. And I think there's actually studies around like being able to process and comprehend information when you actually are writing it. Like I do feel like you lose that small part of the process when you're like taking notes on a tab or whatnot. So I got 3 notebooks right to the left of me, like in like 10 pens. So like I'm an avid note taker.
I got one right next to me. I'm the same way. Now, if I'm in a meeting, I will type.
I'm an avid note taker.
Yeah.
But I do like it, and I think that Malcolm, to your point, there's some good studies out there that it's really interesting. We all learn different, we all retain different. It's just part of humanity, and it's kind of like reading textile like a book versus reading online. There's about 50% of the country. Well, I don't know if it's studied beyond the walls of our country, but where people just can't absorb as much if they're reading digitally. And I'm one of those people.
Right.
I love books. I love the tactile, and I think that applies to pen and paper as well. I think there's something there, and there's something about us being humans that allows that variance.
I have to read it. Interested enough to tie both of these together. I have to have a actual tactile, like physical book, because I take notes inside the book.
Yeah, nice.
And if it's a digital book, I can't like.
Yeah.
So, all right. So we are getting to the close, but before we close, I want to do one more.
Okay.
And we're not going to discuss it. It's just going to be what it is.
Okay.
Cowboys or Eagles? Chad.
Eagles.
Chris.
Cowboys.
Malcolm.
It's only you see the colors.
And I'm Eagles. And I'm going to just let y'all know that this system I have allows me to type in the word Eagles over Malcolm.
Make sure you change their answer to Eagles so we all agree at the end and whatnot. Because I'm disgusted at this side of the screen and
just
whatnot.
to make Joe annoyed. Cowboys. Let's see if you can overwrite that. How many times? Cowboys.
Remove the word Cowboys every time.
Remove the word trash. Oh, I mean Cowboys.
Cowboy Nation. Cowboy
Nation.
Nation.
To close, I want to give everybody the opportunity to kind of drop a little bit of knowledge. What's the one thing you want somebody to walk away with about what we talked about or your business? I'm going to start with you, Chad, this time. I'll give them a little time to think about it. Go ahead, Chad.
Yeah, technology is an enabler. Don't be afraid of it. The beauty of
Malcolm.
So there's a quote that we all know. However, it extends further than what we know. So people always say it's not about what you know, it's about who you know. So that's like a cliche thing. However, it goes a little bit further. It's not about what you know. It's about who you know and what they know about you. So, just having conversations with so many people and they're like, man, I'm just trying to get into the room or I'm, whatever, those type of things, right? But if you're not in the room, but people that know you are in the room, how can they speak to your character or speak to your business or speak to whatever it is that you're doing to potentially get you into another room that helps you go even further, right? So I've really been taking that to heart. And I think as I've been taking that to heart, it's really helped me to develop personally as a man with character and integrity, and also has helped me to really leverage me doing business that much better because, I want people to be able to bring my name up in a room when I'm not around and be able to talk, about me at a high level with integrity and good character. So, it's not about what you know, it's about who you know and what they know about you.
Okay. Chris.
I'm gonna tie on to Malcolm's just a tiny bit, and then since we're talking about artificial intelligence and business and whatnot, I'm gonna say for the audience listening is to start thinking about what makes you a human and where your strengths are as a human, and then where technology can fit into your life, and really start thinking about that as you either use technology or help develop it, lead teams that are using it, because that's going to be really important in the next few years is where are our human strengths going to excel. And so this can take a lot of thought. It's going to take humanity changing a little bit. But I would definitely start reflecting on that now, because then you can start implementing the right changes moving forward.
I guess I will say that, when you think about AI, and I use the analogy of, I see a computer as a tool, just like a screwdriver, but also keep in mind that a toolbox in front of someone who don't know how to use it is worthless, right? So I may not be a programmer like you guys, but I feel like I'm pretty good at using this tool. And that's what I've been leading with. I've changed multiple things within my own business to make us more efficient, and has done that for others. So even if you're not an IT guys like these, you don't know how to program, know how to use the tool. Having it is just like, it's like being a Cowboys fan waiting for a championship. It's just never going to happen. Go ahead, Chad, close this out.
Podcast over, y'all.
Yeah, so the last thing we do is you guys get the opportunity to do a shameless plug and whatnot for whatever you want. So my shameless plug is Glover Technology, glovertechnology.com. We help businesses build tech. So check me out when you get the opportunity.
Man, well, I gotta give my little plug that I gave when I started my gaming stream. Yo, what's up, y'all? This your boy Malcom Locks everywhere. Y'all know the vibes, man. Everybody on here, y'all can follow me on several different social media platforms. My name is Malcom Locks on every single platform. Outside of LinkedIn, it's just my first name and last name, Malcom Coley. Make sure you guys go check me out on all these platforms. Futures First Gaming, definitely go check that out, please. And also, Ready PromptOne, which is my AI startup, that is about to make a lot of noise, and we are having a lot of conversations around a lot of things. So that's definitely on a come up. So make sure you guys, we do have a newsletter. We also have Instagram as well. So make sure you guys go follow Ready PromptOne.
Good. And then Chris.
So yeah, thanks for the opportunity. First of all, I think this is just a fun conversation. You know me, Joel, and everybody else. I think you picked up on the vibe that everything with efficiency and technology and AI, I love it. It just makes me feel like a kid again. And, part of Health Talk is designed to make a lasting difference, primarily in the healthcare environment. And that's through improving efficiencies, offering technology solutions. But really, I think it's just to make an impact. And that's really important is that I leave the world a better place than I found it. And that's the driving mission behind our tiny little company. And I'd love to go in and visit with various teams and be challenged in new ways. I love when somebody calls and says, we have a problem. That's my favorite. That's just music to my ears. Guys said, let me find a solution for you. And that's what we do. So in a healthcare environment, if you're looking at technologies and so forth, I would love to speak to you just in general.
And for me, always shout out to wife and Arrive Leadership. As you start working with these guys and get your technology right, give me a call. I'll help get your leaders right also. Again, another excellent episode. This is one that I'm sitting there looking, I wish this was like 2 hours long.
We definitely could have talked for 2 hours.
We could have definitely kept going without a problem. But I want to thank you guys for being on. And man, what another great episode of the KnoD.
See, that's how much I see.